Selecting on this video means you are absolutely in the question wondering, how would I know if I was a C-suite bully? Well, here's 3 ways you might know. You've lost somebody really valuable on your team to another organization. And while it's easy to see that as, oh, they doubled their salary, or it was a lesser commute, or it was an opportunity for more vacation, right? There's always going to be some set of reasons in an exit interview, or maybe even you didn't have an exit interview. So you're scratching your head going, how could this person I'd spent all this time developing and preparing, maybe it was your successor and they walked out the door. So a second way is that you receive some feedback. Your organization invested in what's called 360 data collection. And when you were reading it, you thought to yourself, were they in the same room with me? I can't imagine somebody sees me this way. And then, of course, the third one could be that you're invested in your ongoing whole person development. You're top of your game in terms of understanding the industry and technically strong in what your organization brings to market. But you're realizing that maybe you're not feeling quite as satisfied, or you just don't have the same aspiration and inspiration and motivation every day coming to work to take it to the next level. You know, these are all examples, each one of them, when something disrupts our identity and our sense of confidence and preparation to fulfill the role and responsibility that we have in the C-suite. It's a big one. The world just gets more complex and ambiguous as the days go by. And being able to see clearly, to accept the humility that there's no way we can see everything, and to place as high a value on relationship as we do on productivity. This is the journey of not being a C-suite bully. So I want to give you 3 questions to be with, to see if this can help you start to assess the degree to which you have habits or preferences or biases that are operating in your way of being a leader. I'm going to start with the first one that's one of my favorites, which is, what do you believe about acknowledgement? I worked for chairman of the board for, almost 14 years, who never gave acknowledgement. It was his MO. Everybody knew it. There was nothing you could do about it. And as I was coming up the ranks in the organization before I reported to him, I would just scratch my head. Like, does anybody know I'm doing anything good? Sound familiar? I'm sure you have people in your organization who are wondering about feedback. Well, this is, of course, a style of feedback, but I want to give you an idea about how to not be a bully around this. When people are performing as expected, they need to know that. If you've said, achieve this project by this date, and this is your budget, and we have this kind of customer satisfaction rating that we're expecting, and you hit or exceed all of those marks, as the C-suite executive, it's important that you pause, go see the leader of that team and say, what I noticed as you did this project is you were always on time. You were unwavering in your belief that this team would deliver. And not only did you deliver, but the customers are beyond excited about what we've brought into the market, better than any of us originally imagined. Thank you. Now, what have I done in that acknowledgement? It's specific, it's behavioral, it's relevant to the work that was being done. This is very different from a pat on the head or the shoulder. Oh, I know we can't do that anymore. But the kind of cheerleading way, good job, means nothing to an executive who wants to excel and someday maybe have your job in the C-suite. Acknowledgement, on the other hand, will absolutely amplify and accelerate the exercise of discretionary effort by that leader. This is one of the secret weapons for the C-suite, to not be seen as bullies, but rather highly relational and one who recognizes the good work when it's done. Now, here's one that's maybe similar, but it has a little twist to it. And I want to know, do you see the work in your organization as a win-lose proposition or as a win-learn proposition. Those of you that are maybe adopting agile methodology, particularly in the technology side and the operational side of the house, or maybe as a quality initiative, you've been learning about fail fast. And I've actually counseled a lot of our customers to say, replace fail fast with learn fast. What we're really wanting is for people to feel confidence to experiment, to make mistakes, and to do it quickly. That's why Scrum is a 3-week process. Not spending all of our time in analysis paralysis, but getting into action with good ideas and letting more good ideas surface through the experimentation and failure process. The key isn't that we failed. The key is that we tried something, we looked at it thoughtfully, and we learned. This is what heuristics is. This is what AI does, and why I think humans are a little afraid of artificial intelligence, because it can learn faster than we can. We allow our belief systems about our identity and what success means to get in the way. Win-learn, establishing that as the norm in the organization rather than competition that somebody wins, therefore somebody loses, is going to give you access to more of the human capability in your organization, because people realize that it's safe to bring an idea and to go make it manifest. Think about what happens at Google. Those engineers get a full day in their work week where they can do absolutely anything they want. And their results on the innovation side of the balance sheet have been extraordinary and bigger than anybody else in the software engineering arena. All right. There's one more here, which is, what do you believe as a member of the C-suite that your influence is in the workplace climate? I've had a lot of executives say to me, oh, I'm too far away from the workforce. I don't have that much influence. Well, a little bit like parenting. They watch what you do, not what you say. So your communications team can do a great job giving you talking points and stand you up at town halls, and you think you're influencing the climate in this way. In fact, if your actions, if your interactions, if your daily behaviors are not congruent with the things that you said from the talking point sheet they gave you, you're really in trouble. That says incongruent, inconsistent, unpredictable, and then the one that you really don't want, which is untrustworthy. So if you're seeing any of that showing up on the engagement surveys, that leadership is not trusted, this is the place to be looking. How are you showing up in your daily interactions and your behavior with others? Are you someone who's focusing on what's working as opposed to what's not working? Are you focused on what others are achieving as opposed to what you've personally achieved? You've probably heard the phrase steward leadership, and this is a little bit of what I'm talking about, meaning that you are a steward of everything that happens in the organization, and you have a responsibility to model the values that you want your culture to live up to every day. What you do daily is the climate that people experience. That over time is what either affirms or disrupts the culture that is unique to your organization and your proposition in the marketplace. So you really have the most influence of anyone in the organization about whether this is the place to work, the best place to work of anybody in your particular sector. How you show up, how you engage, these matter the most and sets the tone for whether the organization will have sustaining excellence. So I've given you 3 questions to reflect on. And I gave you at the start 3 ideas that might be indicators that it's possible you're perceived as a C-suite bully. But you're listening to this video because you want the development to not be seen that way. So give yourself the gift of feedback. Life's going to give it to you anyway. But if you initiate doing that, ask the people that you feel the most comfortable with first. In what way have you seen me out of character, behaving in a way that someone might think was bullying? A couple of examples that might not be obvious. Someone may say to you, You never asked for so-and-so's opinion when we were in the strategy meeting. When so-and-so spoke in that meeting, you didn't acknowledge what was said. You went on to another person. Both of these are ways of dismissing people and can be seen as bullying. Even though it may not have been your intention, it doesn't matter. It still landed that way. And that's a shift in how you interact. Another possibility is, as you've picked up that feedback and you've started to practice being a bit more deliberate in your interactions, is go talk with someone who you don't know very well, or more than one someone you don't know very well, and have a personal conversation. Who are they? What matters to them? What brought them to the organization? What keeps them at the organization? What do they find most useful from leadership? What are they wanting from leadership? In other words, have a listening conversation with someone in your team that you realize, you know what, I have no idea what this person is really thinking about and capable of, which then sets in motion giving that person opportunities. That's another form of silent, invisible bullying, when we don't give opportunities to people we don't know. Our habit takes over and we go to our preferences instead of examining what's the whole resource that's available to the organization. The third one that I want to give you is that when you are in dialogue with a team, is to ask them, what is the way we as a team want to show up in the organization to give the most positive influence possible? And keep asking the question until everybody in the room has spoken, and then close with, and what would you suggest I do differently to be sure that I'm living up to what you all have just described? Your vulnerability is the first indicator. You have no way of being a bully, but rather you want to see everyone thrive as peers, as adults, as colleagues in the organization. The fact that you have your name on the door doesn't make you any different from them other than your scope of responsibility. We are all better together, not being bullies.